Welcome to Interviews with Innocence, a podcast about spirituality, consciousness, and exploring the wisdom our children bring into this world. I believe that our very young children are our greatest teachers. After all, they're the masters of living in the present moment, bubbling in unconditional love, enjoying the messiness of life, and curious about the universe in all its dimensions. The pure essence that young children exhibit lives within all of us. My hope is that these interviews will help us discover, embrace, and connect with the sacred core of childhood that resides within each of our hearts. I am your host, Marla Hughes. Today, I am over the top honored and excited to have P.M.H. Atwater with me. P.M.H. has had 3 near-death experiences within 3 months in 1977. This turned her life around completely. The following year, she turned to research because of what she was told to do during her 3rd episode and became one of the original in the field of near-death studies and completed 18 books on the subject. Some of her findings have been verified in clinical settings, among them the prospective study done in Holland and published in Lancet Medical Journal. To date, her work covers nearly 5,000 adult and child experiencers. She has won many awards and traveled the world, always inviting people to look past appearance for the truth that underlies what we think we know. Her latest work, The Forever Angels, Near-Death Experiences in Childhood and Their Lifelong Impact, challenges the entire field and changes the conversation about life and death, reincarnation, and the life continuum. Because of this book, she went on to write 6 children's books called the Animal Light series, available on Amazon. And in fun and joy, these books about animal babies help human children remember their own birth and beyond. Welcome, PMH.
Well, hi there.
How are you?
I'm doing fine.
Great. It's so exciting to have you. And I must tell you, I immediately ordered these. I could only actually find one I could actually order, but the Animal Babies books. I want to talk about that at the end of the interview, but I'm so...
There's one particular book that has all 6 in it.
Oh,
So
okay. Okay, great.
total. Yeah.
Right. But I have one here and I just, oh my gosh, it's just
Don't you love it?
beautiful. Yeah. So I'm so excited. 18 books. And I do want to have you back to talk about Forever Angels, your most recent book. However, today I really want to talk about the book Dying to Know You, Proof of God in the Near-Death Experience. And I want to explore children, of course. That's what this interview is all about. You've done so much amazing work with children. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about how the children experience the different, as they talk about the different lights when they come to you during their experience. And before I say this, I want to tell you why I love this book so much. Because as you say, it is a book of the collective. This is not your voice.
Yes.
It's over 5,000 voices of children and adults you've collected since 1978, sharing their near-death experiences. And I love it when you say you found they want to shout to the world after this happens, all about their experience. So anyway, tell us a little bit about the lights and being bathed in the light and the stories that you get.
Well, first of all, I want to say that I call Dying to Know You the people's book.
Yes.
Because it's a summary of their words, their wisdom, their experience. Yes, I've got a couple of research cases in there. Yes, I've got a little bit of other research in there. But mostly, almost the whole book is the people. And I'm just so thrilled to be able to say that. This is the people.
Yes.
And there's no other book like this out there. If you're going to talk about lights, I'd like to give you a comparison. The average adult describes this light as brighter than 10,000 suns. Instantly you're fried, but there's no pain. Children talk about the light in a very, very different way. With children, it's like there's 3 different lights. And sometimes the child will just have one of them, maybe 2, maybe all 3. Um, the first one I would call very raw and very powerful, and just it's just a huge, huge, giant light that just sort of gulps you down. And then
Yes.
there's this black or dark light, and the kids sometimes say it has purple tinges to it. And then there's this white light or bright light that sometimes has silver and gold in it. And that raw piercing light, it's just so full of power. And then there's that dark or black light, and there's just something so cuddly and comfortable and cozy and warm and good about that light. And then that bright light, well, that's the light that talks to you, and you can talk to that light, and it knows all about you. So the kids are so precious when they interpret this and say, well, that
Right.
powerful light, that's God's light. And that black or dark light, that's mother light. And that really brighter white light that talks to you, that's father light. But the mother light and the father light, they come from God's light. And the
Wow.
children are so specific about that. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh dear.
Yeah.
Ooh,
And you
that
say
just
and you say in your book also that sometimes they even they'll question the light
well,
or go
they'll question who they see in the light
yes.
or in the dark. It's like adults will sometimes see different kinds of beings, but a child, different sexes, different kinds of beings, on and on and on. But a child will almost always see a father figure of some kind.
Mhm.
This is not true with adults, but it is true with children. To a child, God is a father figure. But invariably, these little kids will go up to this father figure and say, is this what you really look like? And instantly, that father figure just transforms into this humongous, giant light.
Wow.
It's not a being anymore, it's a light. And the kids, you know, they'll challenge angels too. Is this what you really look like? And the angels too will poof into a being of light, or a light ball of uh, a light ball of some kind. It's just like, that light to them is it's sort of representative of, or truly is, that energy or that beingness itself. And it doesn't really have to have a form.
Right.
And children often see animals. They often see birds. Lots and lots and lots of birds. If it's an older child, like 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, they'll comment on, maybe it's that that they what they see is their pet who had died and gone on before them. The
Nice.
pet will come back, even if it's a turtle. The pet will come back, and especially dogs and cats. They usually see the smaller animals. Adults, for some reason, will see the larger animals. They'll see pets who come back also, and birds, adults and children both see lots and lots of birds. I don't know
Mm,
why they do,
right.
but adults will usually see adults or these higher beings, where a child, they just get right down to business.
Right.
It's
W
that nose of their favorite dog.
right. What is the demeanor of the children when they talk about these experiences?
Oh, they're sort of like me right now. They just
Yeah.
sort of start talking, and they just, they're just, oh, they're in such awe,
Yes.
and they just talk about it as if this is what would happen. And why can't you know? And why can't you remember? Why are you
Right.
asking me all these questions, you silly adult? You ought to know this.
Yeah.
Wake up.
So how important it is for us to validate and, as you say, to listen really carefully because they have so much to tell us and we can learn so much from them.
Well, when you're interviewing children, um, if they are, let's see, how would I explain this? If they don't come quite up to your eye level, then you've got to bend. You've got to shrink. If you're, let's say you're interviewing or talking with a child who's 3 or 4 or 5, you're on the floor.
Yeah.
You're on your belly with the kid on their belly. Um, when you're working with children, your eyes can never be above theirs. Ever, 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 never. So the average minister or the average adult or the average a doctor, they always have their eyes above them.
Mhm.
And you have to be very careful about that, because the child then will tend to please the adult. And you have to watch their language. Whenever I work with the children, I ask all adults to leave the room. Yeah,
Yeah.
just me and the
Yeah.
kid, because I know how to talk with them.
Right.
But if you've got a minister, or even the parents, even in the same room, the child will tend to um, describe things in terms that the adult will like or want or expect to hear.
That makes sense. Well, you say in your book, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I've learned to listen very carefully to children, even the very youngest. What may seem like imagination often is not. With little ones, what they talk about can be quite real. Don't dismiss them just because they use phrases you may not be familiar with. And don't twist their stories around to validate how you see things. And you go on to say, I did listen deeply and long, and discovered in doing so that to a child, truth with a capital T covers smaller ground and is more silly put than what adult might. To honor this, well, you go on to offer, it's the summary of some of the comments that the children have learned from their near death experiences. So why don't we just jump right into that?
I'm taking off my glasses
Yes.
so that I can read from my little book here, because this is so exciting to me. I just love it.
It must have been just so magical talking to these children. I mean, it's just, oh my gosh, it's been the
Well,
5
you just let them spin and they will.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, this is the children speaking. There is no afterlife, just an ongoing life stream we leave and return to as we take part in different experiences. God exists. It doesn't matter what God is called, God is still God. And we are each part of God always. We only think we can be separated from God. Really, we can't. We each have a purpose in a larger plan, and we are important to that plan. We each have a job to do, large or small, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. if you know what your job is, if you follow your heart and pray about it, you'll be shown or nudged in the right direction. Worship is important. So is an altar of some kind in your home or in your bedroom. And whatever is on your altar is holy. Church is important too, some kind of church or place of worship, inside or outside, forest or big building, because church is God's house.
Mhm.
Church shouldn't put people down. Everyone has the right to ask questions and want to know more. If a church doesn't let people do this, then it isn't God's house anymore. Prayer is powerful. You can see it and feel it. Prayer power travels in beams. And when a prayer beam hits you, you feel warm and good all over.
Nice.
Food tastes better if you say grace before you eat and have candles and flowers on the table. Most foods are okay to eat, but you need to ask the food first if it wants to be in your tummy. Sometimes the food says no. If you would listen better, you would feel better. We should listen more to our body too. It tells us more than our head does sometimes.
Mhm.
Animals are our friends. They help us learn to share and to give. Rocks are our friends too, and so are fish and water and plants and all kinds of things. Everything is alive. That's why we need to respect our world. We need to respect each other too, even babies who aren't born yet. You don't need a body to see, hear, think, feel, touch, smell, and know things. All that stuff is easy to do without a body. The only reason anybody needs a body is to grow. You can't grow if you don't have one. That's what makes a body important. And you need to take care of what you have, or it can't take care of you. We have families. We have the families we have because we need them. Sometimes we choose our family, and sometimes we get what we get because it's our assignment, and we get brownie points for saying yes. Other times we're just booted in because it's our turn.
Interesting.
Mistakes can be corrected. We're never stuck. We just forget how the plan works until something happens to help us remember. We all know more than we think we do. That's one of those things we need to remember. Life can get pretty scary. Getting in touch with the love that is inside of us can make the scary things go away. If that doesn't work, get help. None of us ask for help like we should.
Mhm.
We think we can do everything by ourselves, but we can't. There are always helpers around to help us, to pitch in. Some wear bodies and some don't. Work is important, so is learning. It's okay to buy things that earn money, but what's really special is helping someone, lending a hand, doing chores, cleaning things, making a home, being a friend, getting ready for tomorrow, expressing love, forgiving people. What
Wow.
we do for others matters more than what we do for ourselves. And you can't laugh enough and play and create things and sing and write poems and scrunch up your nose so your face tickles. Always be loyal and truthful. Lying hurts you or someone else sooner or later.
Wow, those are so let's go ahead, and I have so
There's just
many other
a few
questions.
more.
Yeah, you've got to read the last one. The last one is they're all so profound, but
Oh, we are stuffed full of love because God is. So so's everything else. It's a wonder how many people forget that, and they forget about having a soul. We each have one. That's our perfect part. Our soul makes certain we remember who we are,
Mhm.
so we can always make our way back to the life stream, our homey home, no matter how far from it we travel.
Wow.
Oh, I want very much to read this because it's
Yes.
so important. Everything is made of light.
Mm.
Spirit is spirit is what holds light together, so it can become shapes and forms. Spirit is everywhere like air, and it breathes, but not like our nose does. That means everything breathes. I do, you do, so does God. God's breath is what keeps the universe alive.
Mm.
I think that's so important.
Oh, so important. Wow. And you talk about the main questions when these experiences happen, and they're who did you love and who did you serve? And you talk in the book about how children say follow your heart, or talk a little bit
Yeah.
about that, how the children answer that.
Well, they don't necessarily have a game plan.
Yes, yes.
They're not necessarily told this is what you have to do. Adults often get that kind of verbiage, but kids seldom, if ever, do. So a child's idea of what they need to do, what they're created to do, why they're here, is that idea of follow what feels right to you.
Mhm.
Follow what is warm. Follow follow your nose.
Yes.
Your nose will lead you there.
Your feelings, your
Yeah, your feelings, your
intuitive.
nose. Yeah,
Yeah. I
just
love
follow.
I love when you say, when you return from death or near death, a new a commandment courses throughout your veins and in rhythm with your heartbeat. Love one another. And having a love for others meant having love for myself also, all of me.
Yeah,
Such a beautiful message for all of us. Wow. So these children, they come back from this experience. And I'm so glad you said that about the breathing, because that was the question I was going to ask you. And I know in some of your other books, you've talked a little bit how they come back changed, as do adults, but they come back different after somewhat even charmed, it seems sometimes. Can you talk a little bit about some of the traits the children have when they, as they get a bit older, without totally going into Forever Angels.
uh, yeah, that little warning there.
Yes,
Uh,
yeah.
most of the children come back fully engulfed in what happened to them, what they feel, what they saw, who they talked with, what they learned. And it's really a challenge to be back with mom and dad, brother and sister, back in school, the school kids, and realize that these other people don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And so that can be a puzzle for children. Um, how can I handle what people call life when I'm full of life
Right, and
and
love.
I was in life and I'm still in life and I'm full of life? How can I wiggle into what we call the world around us
Mm,
without losing all that light?
remembering.
Yeah. Um, one of the things I would love to talk about is something that happened. I want to get this straight, so I'm going to go back to that page. I'm going to flip back there, I hope
Yes.
very quickly. This happened in 2011, December. I found out about it in December 2011, but it was May 22nd, 2011. It was in Joplin, Missouri, and they were hit by a tornado so disastrous that it nearly wiped the thriving city off the map. Can you imagine Joplin, Missouri? It was
Ah,
almost wiped off the map.
wow.
And it was a, you know, a, a, what do they call it? A 5+. Anyway, it was just this huge tornado. And Todd Frankel, who was a writer for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, is the one who got a hold of me by phone because he knew I'd done a lot of work with children, especially children who are dying, or this kind of thing, a lot of near-death work. And he was so puzzled by the children of Joplin, Missouri, because they kept talking about the butterfly people. And everybody in town was puzzled. And sometimes the older kids would use things like angels, but not the little ones. They talked about the butterfly people. And here in this horrendously awful world, and things flying everywhere, these kids would be in their car with their parents, and and the butterfly people would be holding the handle of the car so that the tornado could not suck them out of the car. And the kids everywhere were talking about the butterfly people. Um, and I said, in my background in working with child experiencers of near-death states, what impressed me, impresses me still, is the number of such sightings, and that none of the smaller children ever used the term angel. This is significant and alerted me at the time to the genuineness of the phenomenon. Child experiencers never say angel
Mhm.
unless previously exposed to the term. So the little ones using a term like butterfly makes perfect sense. And the kids later on would draw pictures of butterflies all over the buildings in town, or the signs or anything that fell over. They were drawing these butterflies.
Amazing.
Butterflies. These little butterfly people would come down and save them.
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
Yes, that's such a beautiful story. Wow. I wonder if that little town remembers if they talk about that or if they've celebrated in some way, you know? It's be
Well,
interesting.
it went on to be celebrated very much so, and the
Yeah.
drawings on buildings. And there was a specific little girl, she was 6 years old. Her name was Ari Hallmark, and she lost her mom and dad and her grandma and her grandfather and another cousin
Oh,
that were sucked up in this tornado. And what saved her were these butterfly people
mm,
that pulled her back. And she wound up alone in a big field when it was over. And of course, everybody's very concerned about her because she lost 5 members of her family.
oh, absolutely.
I mean, they're just gone. But the interesting thing is, Marla, Ari knew 2 months before it happened. She was told in a dream that she would lose all these 5 people. So for that 2 months, she never told them, but for those 2 months, she enjoyed them as much as she could because she knew she would never see them again.
Wow. Well,
Isn't that
she
something?
would see them again, but
Oh, yeah,
not on
there's
this earthly
time.
realm. Right, right.
And her dad was bald at the time. When she got up in the cone of the tornado, her dad had hair.
So she actually went up,
She
but then was
she went
saved.
up along with her parents in the funnel. It was the butterfly people who pulled her back.
Wow, wow.
Isn't that something?
Yeah,
And she
yeah.
wrote a wonderful little book about it. It's called To Heaven After the Storm.
I will
So if
have to get
you have a
that.
chance to get that little book, it's precious. I have a copy. Of
Amazing.
course, I have a copy.
Of course you do. So I'd like to talk a little bit about prayer, meditation, and visualization. And it's so, you say that these are the things that helps our soul. It keeps us on track. The quickest way to access our soul is through prayer and meditation. Think spiritual. So I want to talk a bit about what you feel like these little ones that have been through these experiences, and just little ones in general, how we can help them remember these experiences, or we can celebrate, for the ones that have not had NDEs.
Just have them talk. Have them
Yes.
talk.
Yeah, ask
Just
questions.
let them talk.
Right.
That's the biggest mistake adults make, is trying to walk on tiptoes and be very, very careful when a child doesn't want to be careful. They
Yes.
want to talk. Let them talk. Let them pray their way. May not be your way, may not be any kind of prayer you ever heard,
Yes.
but let them pray. And with kids, they love saying grace at meals. You know, how many families today say grace at meals? Kids want to say grace at meals. They
Right.
want flowers on the table, or they want candles on the table. They want some kind of centerpiece. Doesn't matter what it is, just some kind of centerpiece. And when they're saying prayers, they want to be able to have any kind of prayer they want to pray. If they say a funny kind of prayer, let them say that prayer. That's what they want to say.
Right.
And it's just so important for a child to be able to hold hands and to be able to be free in the prayers they say.
Right. All children, not just children who've had these experiences.
Right, all children. And especially for all children, but especially near-death kids, they want an altar in their bedroom.
Oh, wow.
Wake up, mom and dad. Even if it's just a special cloth they put on a TV tray, or maybe something on top a dresser, and maybe they put their favorite pictures up there, or a drawing of what they think God is or Jesus is,
Yeah.
or maybe just fruit, maybe just flowers, but that's their altar,
Yeah.
and that's where they pray. Let your children have altars.
Right. And, that brings up a question I meant to ask earlier. Do the children, while you were reading the stories, there was a lot of reference to God and to Jesus, and are these kids usually from a religious family?
No.
Yeah, that's what
No.
I
No,
thought.
no, 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 no.
Right.
I'm gonna skip a little bit here, but it fits. Um, in my book, The Forever Angels, of course, that's a major study. And among the 397 people involved in that study, all child experiencers, and they're from all over the world. 3 of them were born into voodoo families. All they ever practiced was voodoo. They never heard God, God. They never heard of the Bible, never heard of Jesus, none of that, never heard of any of that. And they had a near-death experience, and as a child, between birth and the age of 5, so they were very small, and each one of those 3 were visited by Jesus. They knew his name, and they called him by name. Go figure. I
Wow.
can't I can't, you know, as a researcher, I can't handle that. What do you do with it? What do you do?
You
These are voodoo people.
Yeah,
Never heard of Jesus.
right. Well, I think no matter how many stories we hear, it's still just astonishing.
The whole thing is astonishing.
Yeah, yeah. So what have been the greatest lessons that you've been given by the very young in your research?
Ah, to be able to accept them on their level and to realize the absolute truth of what they say.
Yes.
I don't care what they say. To respect and honor whatever it is they are saying.
Beautiful.
Adults very often get into judgment, especially if they are belong to a certain denomination and they feel everything should be a certain way. Don't put that on a child.
Mhm.
Allow the child to be a child.
Right.
And I
You
think that's so important.
Yeah. So what has your research this is such a kind of a loaded question because I
There
know
you go.
that we
I
all
know
know the answer.
now.
No, but what has this and you being an experiencer? I mean, that's a whole nother story.
I had three
Three
more
times.
years.
Yes.
I
What
look back and I call it the heavenly sledgehammer effect.
well, we do need to talk about that in another interview. But
Woo!
what's it taught you about eternity that life never ends, but there's a beautiful continuation and we'll go home to our real home and
It just it helps me to be at ease no matter where I am,
yeah,
no matter what the conditions are. I have traveled the world. I've been in places that were really scary. I've been in alleys. I'm a walker. I'm an explorer. I'm out there. I'm not someone going to sit on my fannies. Thank you very much. That's not me. I'm going to be out the door. And I'm going to be walking with the people. And I'm going to be in the alleys. And I'm going to be in their churches. And I'm going to be in their homes. And I'm going to be talking to all kinds of people. Lots of people say that's very dangerous. To heck with it. I don't do anything that I don't have a feeling I can do. If I have a feeling not to go, I won't go. But if I have a feeling I'm okay, I'll even be in an alley in the dark
right,
in Seoul, South Korea, and I was. Um, so I've learned to trust that sense that I'm okay, no matter where I am and the conditions. I'm okay,
right,
and if I don't feel okay, I'm out of there.
yeah. Trusting your inner guidance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and the same
beautiful.
with people.
Right. Which children are so good at, by the way.
Oh yeah,
You
they can
know,
they can they can they can what I mean, they just know.
right
They just
away.
look down and they got it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
So,
sort of like an animal in that regard,
yeah.
like a little dog or a little cat. They
Right.
know, they can size you up.
That's a
Little
very good
child is
example.
the same way.
Right. Right.
They have those feelings that are right on.
And we just have to trust those and validate those. Well, we need to wrap it up. And I
Oh,
have one.
really?
I know. Well, we're going to do this. I need to ask you. I want to ask you, will you come back and talk about Forever Angels?
Sure, I'll come back again and again.
Great, great. And I want to talk about the children of the fifth dimension. I
Oh, that would be
am
another show
so
altogether.
excited about that and how it relates to
That
Forever Angels. That's
a lot of people call them millennials.
yes, yes.
Yeah,
But
our two kids are
I
different.
know, very much like the near-death kids from what
Yeah,
you
that's
say.
great.
Yeah, I can't wait to explore that. So, what would you say to your 5-year-old self if you had the opportunity?
Enjoy the life you are about to have. I know it's going to be terrible and horrible and frightening and scary and confusing. And I know there's going to be beautiful parts and pretty parts. And there's just going to be joy and wonder. Enjoy it all
Mm.
because this is what you came here for. Enjoy the trip.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. So, PMH, if people want to learn more about you and find you, where can they do that?
www.pmhatwater.com.
Wonderful.
Now,
Well,
pmhatwater.com, and I do produce a free monthly newsletter. I warn you, it's only for the curious. So you can get onto my website, scoot over to the newsletter, and there's an archive there, so you can go back in the archive and kind of check it out because some people don't like it. It's only for the curious.
Yes, yes. Well, I think I can say that my listeners are very curious. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I can't wait until next time.
You betcha.
Okay, you have a great day.
You too. Bye bye.
Thank you so much for listening in today. If you want to learn more about the show, you can find us at interviewswithinnocence.com and on Facebook or Instagram at Interviews with Innocence. Please write me a message, tell me what you liked, and let me know what else you would like to hear. I would love to hear from you. And if you liked what you heard, please leave us an iTunes rating and review. It helps other listeners find the show. Thank you.